and what they're up against. XXI. Must-see TV. It was great pity, so it was. This villainous saltpeter should be digged out of the bowels of the harmless earth, which many a good tall fellow had destroyed. King Henry IV, Act 1, Scene 3. At 8:30 on the morning of the Academy Awards ceremony, Charlie Randall was in the safe apartment the NVA had chosen as the assembly area. He got a call on one of his cell phones from volunteer Ken Bishop. "Hello, Mr. Dundee. We have the 3 bags of wallaby feed you ordered. Do you want them delivered?" "No, I'll pick them up myself," said Randall. "Cheers, mate." He hung up the phone. "All 3 boxes are in the hotel," he told the others around him, all of them casually and nattily dressed in the height of Southern California fashion, down to the cool shades and the blackberries on their belts. "Right, I will go in first. It will take me about half an hour to get down there, allowing for traffic. As soon as I call in the all clear, the rest of you follow at 60-minute intervals. You will each be assigned a driver of the opposite sex, who will drop you off a block from the hotel, and from there you will proceed on foot. Lieutenant Ekstrom, make sure they alternate the vehicles each time, so we don't have just one car or SUV going back and forth. The street CCTV cameras might pick that up, and someone at police headquarters might notice the same vehicle going in and out of the area. If you see anything at all, that looks or feels wrong on the way in, abort your entry and let Oscar know immediately. He will contact me. Do not attempt to contact me yourselves until you are in the hotel suite." "I'll be your driver, sir," spoke up volunteer Jeannie Holdstoft. "You're in luck. It's a nice sunny day, and since you're the CO, you rate the Jag, so we can go with the top down." Half an hour later, Randall eased into the Royale with a camera slung over his neck and a press identification badge from a major Australian newspaper dangling to his lapel. The lobby was crowded with milling people, tourists, movie flacks and publicists, bellhops and hotel employees, media and fans. He had no difficulty in strolling into an elevator and making it to the 14th floor. He checked the security cameras in the hall to make sure the little red light was off, and then knocked 3 times quickly on the door of 1401, and then twice, more slowly. Erica Collingwood opened the door. She was wearing a dark brown leather skirt, sandals, and a white silk blouse with several top buttons undone. Randall stepped inside, and without saying anything to her, he walked through the 4-room suite and kitchenette, holding his electronic bug sweeper high. The suite showed clean. 3 large cardboard cases lay on the floor in one corner. Randall went over to one of them, opened it with a pocket knife, and while Erica watched in fascination, he drew out a Ruger, Bearcat, and a silencer, which he screwed onto the muzzle of the pistol, and then an interior clip holster, which he slipped onto his belt at the small of his back, holstering the gun and pulling his shirt tail over it. He then opened his cell phone and dialed. Christina Ekstrom answered. "Thank you for calling the Los Angeles County Humane Society," she said politely. "How may I direct your call?" "Do you have any wombats?" asked Randall. "I'm looking to adopt about 3 of them." No sir, I'm afraid we don't have any wombats at the moment," said Christina. "Could I interest you in a nice cat? We have one here who is looking for a good home. Is he litter trained?" asked Randall. Christina couldn't resist giggling. Randall hung up. "Right. I just confirmed I'm here safe, and all 3 boxes are here. The next man is on his way. How did it go this morning?" "My performance was a success," said Erica, suddenly remembering to button up her blouse. "I was right. Those spics and the one white guy had their minds on me and their eyes glued to my rack. We could have brought in a couple of tanks, and they wouldn't have noticed. I didn't have to go through any metal detectors on my way in," said Randall. "Crikey, that's a change from Seattle or Portland. Up there you have to go through a metal detector and a couple of checkpoints every time you go to the bog in a first-class hotel like this. We've pulled off too many naughties in such places. How are you holding up, Erica?" "More nervous than even when I did my first serious screen test at age 12. But don't worry, it's just stage fright," she assured him. "I won't flake on you. I'm up for this, all the way." "Now what?" asked Erica. "We wait. The next man should be here in about an hour. The whole team should be in by mid-afternoon. Anything going on here I need to know about? I didn't see any drunken movie stars in the corridor." "Oh, none of the real heavies ever get up much before noon," said Erica. "You're up," said Randall. "Yeah, well, I had to go on at 8, remember?" she said with a smile. "You ever want to become an actor? The key to winning any director's heart is when you've got a 6 o'clock call, you're there at 6, in makeup, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to go dramatic on his ass. I've gotten parts before, edged out a lot bigger named actresses than me, purely because I take my craft seriously. The directors know that when I'm on set, I'm all business, and I make those 6 o'clock calls, sober, straight, not groggy or hungover, and ready to roll camera. Someday you'll be the biggest star in the homeland, Randall promised. Will we win? She asked him bluntly. We've got a fighting chance, yes, he told her. We could still blow it. It could all come unglued. They can't defeat us, but we might yet defeat ourselves with some stupid mistake. But the United States will never be the same, no matter what happens to us, tonight or from now on. We have written indelibly into the history books that at least some white men finally revolted after a century of oppression and insult, and that our race did not go gentle into that good night. We've shattered so many politically correct myths over the past 2 years I can't even count them. And I'll tell you this much, Erica. We may not have the power to remake the world in our image, or even to grab back the small part of it we're demanding of these bastards. But we can make bloody well sure they can't create their brave new world either. That big consumer plantation where a small gang of Jews in science, nerds and white poofters in business suits sit on the veranda and sip their mint juleps, fucking everything that moves and grazing in the grass, while all the rest of the world consists of coffee-colored peons toiling in their factories and offices, spending their minimum wage on junk food and bright, shiny, trashy little toys, and worshipping Ronald McDonald, with no race, no culture, no God, no identity, nothing to live and die for except bloody money and mindless recreation. If it can't be the white man's world ever again, by God, it will never belong to the Jews. He saw she was looking at him strangely. Sorry, got up on me soapbox there for a bit. No, I'm riveted, actually, she said earnestly. Look, Mr. Dundee, or Mick, or whatever your name really is. I have to admit, all this is a bit freaky for me, but not in a bad way. I was listening to you just then, and all of a sudden it hit me that in all my life, I've never known a man, a real man, of my own race. What about Chase? He asked her. Chase was everything that a modern feminist would want in a partner, said Erica. Jesus, you hear, I just said partner and not husband. I guess that shows how deep all this PC social engineering and mental conditioning goes. It's just like George Orwell wrote in 1984, agreed Randall. By controlling the language, they eventually control thought. I'll try to counteract it a bit by addressing you as Miss Collingwood. Thanks, but Erica's good, she laughed. Chase was kind and gentle and supportive and creative and funny and a great kisser, among other things. Those aren't at all bad qualities for a man to have, you know, Randall reminded her gently. Sounds to me like you could have done a lot worse. Yes, I know, but that's all he was, said Erica. It's like that with so many otherwise fine white males today. It's like half of them is missing. The hard half, the strong half, that once led our race to conquer almost all the world, to make the world the way it is today. The strength, the courage, the ruggedness, the will to power and to overcome obstacles that our people once had is gone now. The old man calls it the alpha gene, said Randall. Yeah, well, it seems to have gone missing in white males these days. If it's there at all, it's there in some weird mutated form like obsessive and heartless ambition and clawing for money, or else it shows up in sudden psychotic episodes that always catch you by surprise just when you think you know a guy. For the rest of us, it's like we've just given up and accepted our own end. You'd be amazed how many white people of my acquaintance simply take it as a matter of course, as an irreversible fact of life, that the white race is going to become extinct in a generation or two, and that we're all going to become coffee-colored, like you said just now when you were on your soapbox. Chase had everything I could ever want in a man, except that, she said mournfully. Don't get me wrong, I loved him, and I love him still. But now it's kind of hitting me for the first time that I was only settling, because I knew he would be the best I could ever do from the available field of choice. I didn't know there were any of you older models still in service, she added with a rueful smile. Yeah, a few, Randall replied, grinning. Kinda hard to get parts, though. I suppose this is the cue for me to go all slinky and ask you how long we've got until that next volunteer knocks on the door, she said, trying to laugh it off. Best offer I've had all day, said the Australian gallantly. But even if you were serious, I couldn't take you up on it. Business before pleasure and all that. Yeah, I figured, she said with a nod. But look, if we both make it through and it turns out to be possible, you've got my number, and you know where I live. Invitation accepted. I'd really like to get to know a girl who reads Henry Lawson better, said Randall, and she could tell that he meant it. You may consider yourself on my Toto list. She giggled. Now, you've got cable in here, right? I need to keep it on the local news channels, see if there's anything brewing Oscar-wise or all around the town that might affect us. Although Mr. Ripley tells us that so far everything is going as planned. When do you have to show up for the penthouse bash? Not until about 1, she said. I need to go up and help Janie and the caterers get set up. I'll need to come down here about 4:30 and change into my Prada threads. The lads have already been told that you don't exist, said Randall. You can trust them to protect your identity as much as is possible from anyone in a situation like this. Don't worry, said Erica. I meant it when I told you. I want my name in the hat along with all of you. It's an honor. An hour later came the secret knock on the door. Randall looked out the peephole, saw Cat Eyes Lockhart outside, and opened it to let him in. Lockhart was wearing a false mustache, sunglasses, and a baseball cap, hopefully to fool any facial profiling software that might pick him up on camera. He peeled off the mustache and took off the hat as they went into the living room of the suite. Damn thing itches. So this is how the other half lives, said Lockhart with an appreciative whistle. Snazzy. Erica got up from the sofa. Lockhart was startled. Well, I'll be damned, She's no one, said Randall. She's not here, remember? Now that's a real pity, said Lockhart, shaking his head admiringly. Sorry, ma'am, I'm a bit starstruck, but I guess you're used to that. I'm the one who should be starstruck, Mr. Lockhart, said Erica, shaking his hand in some awe. I think your face has been getting more airtime than mine for the past year. My God, how can you walk around in public with the whole world after you? You're an actor, so you should know the answer to that, said Lockhart. You just school yourself to understand that you're on stage all the time, 24/7. You assume a character, and you live it, and you never let yourself forget the role you're playing. Everyone you meet on the street or in this hotel or anywhere else is your audience, and if your performance slips just once, you're done for. Death is the ultimate bad review. Wow, talk about total immersion, said Erica, shaking her head in wonder. You're going to be playing that role yourself from now on, Randall reminded her. Geez, you're right, Erica acknowledged. Starting tonight, said Lockhart. Ma'am. Erica, she said. Okay, Erica, as I understand it from my briefing, you're going to be presenting the Best Screenplay Award to those two faggots? Yes, that's right, she confirmed. I hope you're as good a shot as your reputation claims, Mr. Lockhart. Might as well call me Cat Eyes, or just Cat, said Lockhart. Everyone else does, including that asshole on Fox News who added $100,000 of his own personal money to my DT bounty. Look, I know this is kind of late in the day, but do you understand that you might be hit yourself? We'll be firing without our usual telescopic sights because we don't have any way to re-zero and adjust them after breaking the weapons down and putting them back together. Ron and I are both good at what we do, but in that kind of confined space with all the noise and confusion, anything could happen. It's going to be a slaughterhouse down there, he concluded bluntly. She understands that, said Randall. This is why all 6 of you have to see her and know her for one of us, to make sure no one figures she's just another dumb Hollywood blonde and decides to add her to his bag, after which you delete that file from your memories. 10-4, sir. But one thing, Erica, I've got first shot. When those two fruits get up on stage and they're standing at the podium together, make sure you quietly step back a couple of paces. Give me a little wiggle room to play with. Not a good idea, she said, shaking her head. You obviously don't know how the Tinseltown mentality works, lucky guy. In Hollywood, shrinking violets finish last. We always try to upstage one another anytime there's a camera rolling or any media around. It's so much part of the mindset in this town that any deviation from that pattern will look suspicious. I don't know if you've ever actually watched the Oscars, but if you have, you'll recall that the presenters always try to grab as much face time on camera as they can. After they've opened the envelope and the winner or winners are up on stage, the presenters always try to stay in the shot, even if they're just hovering in the background. Sometimes they even mug the winners behind their backs, much to the studio's displeasure, but it's become kind of an accepted thing. If I step back from Nat and Marty while they're making their acceptance speech, far enough to be out of your line of fire, then about the 40th time the FBI and the DHS replay that tape, one of their psychologists or profilers is going to notice the fact that I stepped out of the way, and they're going to ask why. She took his hand. You're supposed to be the greatest rifleman in the world, Cat. Be that. I trust you with my life. Okay, said Lockhart, still somewhat dubious. Well, I hope so, because the other sniper and me are going to be using special ammunition, something our quartermaster's father cooked up for us. All lead slugs, no copper jackets, since at this range we won't need them for ballistics. Hollow points with mercury fulminate caps and an extra hot load. That soft lead will pancake and the cap will explode when the round strikes, and each shot will blow holes in people the size of a phone book. Thanks for the visual, she said wryly. Now, I've got another question. Lockhart looked at Randall and nodded almost imperceptibly toward Erica, arching his eyebrows in question. Mick Dundee, in present company, Randall told him. Okay, Mick. In view of the ongoing nature of our mission here, do I, or you, or both of us card this tickle? God, I'd love to. Naturally, since it will probably go down in history as your masterpiece, laughed Randall. I don't think either of us could possibly be more wanted by Zog than we are already. A hit this big, you're the first one they're going to accuse anyway. Me they don't know from Adam's house cat, which is as it should be, but they bloody well know the Prince of Wands. Hell, let's let the kikes know that the volunteers have sent down their A-team. With tonight's festivities as an opening number, that will rattle them even more. Sure, let's both card 'em. Card? Asked Erica. Our signature cards which we leave at the scene of our hits, explained Lockhart. I'm the Jack of Diamonds, as you probably know from the media. I use regular playing cards because I'm in a line unit. This gentleman here is third section. He's part of what we call the squad, courtesy of the famous Irish revolutionary leader Michael Collins, so he gets a tarot card. He's the Prince of Wands. If I ever get a card, I want to be the Queen of Hearts, laughed Erica. That way I can yell, off with their heads. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, all 7 NVA volunteers were ensconced in Suite 1401. Erica spent several hours up in the penthouse setting up the party with Jane Gerassimo and schmoozing with the early arrivals who were drifting in, drawn by the scent of free alcohol and drugs, and the possibility of earning a role in an upcoming movie through fast and witty patter, or through a quick act of fellatio in one of the bathrooms. The only disturbance had been some noise outside the door at about 3 o'clock. Erica had just come back down to the suite, and she slipped out to see what was going on. She came back and reported, "It's all right. Seymour Grossberg from Warner Brothers and Bart Payne were just having an argument about his cut for his last film. The studio literally jewed Bart into accepting $10 million up front, plus a 3-point percentage, and now he's pissed. He would have gotten at least that much from the opening weekend alone if he'd gotten the 10 points he told his agent Manny Scar to go for." I think I mentioned Manny used to be my agent as well. I wonder if Bart's figured out yet that Manny himself got 2 points under the table from Seymour for keeping him down to 3. The usual thing. When 2 Jews get together in Hollywood over lunch, the Gentile client is the dessert. That's the flick about the brave astronauts who go into space to shoot down the aliens who have allied themselves with the Muslims and are going to zap New York and Tel Aviv with their ray guns? Asked Lee Washburn. And breed the alien monster in the Pope's belly that bursts out of his robes during his Easter address on St. Peter's Square wearing a swastika armband. Yes, terror from beyond the stars, confirmed Erica. There came the last coded knock on the door. Randall opened it, and Kiki McGee walked in, wearing a neat business ensemble with long sleeves and black hose that covered her legs, as well as the mandatory LA sunglasses. "Okay, that's the last of us," said Randall. He phoned Christina, who answered in the name of a well-known pizza joint. "Just thought I'd let you know the one with the anchovies finally got here," he said. Back at the safe house, Christina turned and told Hill and the rest of them, "They're all in." "Was that Bart Payne out there in the hall?" asked Kiki back in Suite 1401. "Christ, he looks old. Gin blossoms all over his face and he needs to hit the showers or at least put on some deodorant," she said. "I met him getting off the elevator and he leered at me and tried to pick me up. I told him I was meeting somebody, and he wanted to know what I was doing after the Oscars. He invited me up to the party in the penthouse. What did you say? Asked Randall. I told him I'd give it a shot. Cute. You're a girl, blurted out Erica. All my life, agreed Kiki. This is Tanya, said Randall. Yeah, I figured I'd use Patty Hearst's old handle since this is Hollywood, said Kiki. Death to the Zionist insect. Wait, I know you, exclaimed Erica, staring. Jesus, that big gunfight with the cops you guys had up in Portland last year. I know Cat Eyes and that other guy in there, Thumper, he was. In it, now you're here too. You were the girl who was shot and bleeding, but you kept on firing your gun and charging down the street at them. Oh, wow. I never liked that clip, said Kiki with a wry smile. The camera didn't get my good side. I know you, of course, or I would if you were anywhere near here. My brother had a real crush on you and a poster of you in his bedroom when he was 15. Cool, said Erica. Is your brother part of the operation too? He came back from Baghdad in a bag. Several bags, actually. Poor white boys who grow up in double wides on 82nd Avenue don't get draft exemptions like they do at Beverly Hills High. Kiki suddenly remembered the well-publicized story of Chase Claiborne's fate, and she slapped her forehead. Oh shit, damn, I'm sorry, Erica, that was a stupid thing to say. I should have known better. I saw what happened to your boyfriend on TV. It's all right, said Erica. You're right, of course. Chase ended up where he is because I pissed off the wrong Jews, in case you're wondering why I'm helping you guys. I'm really sorry about what I said and about what happened to him. Your stuff is in the bedroom in there, said Randall, pointing to one of the doors. Go ahead and check out all your gear, then go ahead and get into your tux. Erica followed Kiki into the bedroom. As she started taking off the feminist cubicle wear, Erica observed her tattoos and the scar on her arm in fascination, as well as when Kiki took out the Heckler & Koch MP5 submachine gun she would be carrying that night, checked the chamber, attached the sling, and slammed a magazine into the well, following that by screwing the silencer onto her own Ruger. Look, don't take this wrong. I know this is going to sound weird, but do you mind if I kind of watch you and talk to you while you get ready, Tanya? Asked Erica. The reason I ask is that it occurs to me that someday I may have to play, someone like you. I assumed from your presence here that you are someone like me, Kiki told her, as she pulled the hand grenades out of their olive green cardboard canisters and hooked them onto her web belt, to Erica's startled gaze. Ow, touche. It's just that I always study people, watch how they act in as many different situations as I can, so that if I'm ever faced with a similar situation in a part, I can make it real. I've done a few gun and crime scenes, and I was a female detective in one flick. But I was never really comfortable with those parts because I didn't know. Sorry, I know that sounds like I'm trying to use you as a guinea pig or something. I've been used as worse, honey, said Kiki. I know you don't have time to sit down and tell me your life story, and you wouldn't tell me if you did, but can I ask, just what's your motivation? Why are you involved? I have a little girl, said Kiki, almost 4 years old now. I want to make sure that when she grows up, she doesn't turn into me. She called into the other room. Jimmy, you want to come do my hair? Wingo entered the room, and while Kiki laid out her tuxedo on the bed, he began braiding her hair, which had grown long again, into a single braid. Why is he doing that? Asked Erica. One of the things female volunteers have picked up through experience is that the best way to go into action is with one braid you can stuff into your collar and down your back, explained Kiki. That way your hair doesn't get in the way, flapping around in your face while you're running and jumping and covering and trying to aim, that kind of thing. It's also a lot easier to wear your mask, and it breaks your profile if you're seen or recorded on camera. Afterward, when you've broken contact, you can undo the braid real quick when you change your clothes and let it drop on your shoulders like normal, changing your appearance. Suddenly, Erica's cell phone bleeped. She opened it and listened, then said, "Hi, Janie." "Yeah, okay, I'll be right up." She closed the phone. "I've got to go back into glitterati mode and get back upstairs and schmooze some more before I come down and get ready to go on myself. Well, good luck." She left with an embarrassed air. "Did you ask for her autograph?" Wingo asked Kiki. "Another rich bitch who thinks there's something cool about growing up in a trailer park on Meth Row," sighed Kiki. "What is it with these girls? Delusions of squalor or something?" Yeah, well, did Kat tell you she's going to be standing right next to the two fags when he opens up? Inquired Jimmy. It ain't just her money and her fame she's putting on the line. If she can stand still and smile and chatter for the camera when she knows she's in Kat Lockhart's sights, she's got more guts than I have, admitted Kiki. Kat and Randall monitored the various pre-Oscar shows, flipping from channel to channel with the remote, looking for any new developments that might affect the plan. At a little past 3, the first stars began to show up outside the theater, mugging and posing as they strolled down the red carpet. There were increasing levels of shouts, laughter, cackling voices, thumping and bumping from the hallway outside as partygoers went up and down the corridor, to and from the elevator. Erica came back down at about 4 o'clock. She found them all sitting in the living room of the suite in their tuxedos. The TV's sound was off, and Kiki was holding up large glossy photographs of various studio executives, actors, directors, and Hollywood big shots in front of them. She held up a photograph. Art Bernstein, several of the volunteers called out. She held up another one. Alan Adler, came the shouts of recognition. She held up another one. Sid Glick, snapped back Kat and the others. She held up another photo. Peter Mandel, came the quick responses. Kinda reminds me of that scene in Tora, where the Japanese pilots are getting ready for the attack on Pearl Harbor, she said, shaking her head in amazement. Not a dissimilar sitch. How's the party going upstairs? Asked Randall. Pretty slow so far, said Erica. One minor drug OD that the house doctor is taking care of, and somebody barfed on the carpet, but otherwise just the usual grab-assing. Most of them understand they need to stay reasonably straight for the ceremony so they don't show their butts, get tossed onto the paddy wagon to Betty Ford, lose millions, and maybe get blacklisted by the Glick gang. I need to get into my outfit and get down there in time for the presenter's call at 5. Have you got everything you need out of the second bedroom? Yeah, said Randall. Thank God I never went in for big fancy hairstyles, she said. I always go for a simple look. She disappeared into the bedroom and closed the door. Simple look or not, it took her almost 55 minutes. But when Erica opened the door and stepped out again, the whole room fell silent. She was wearing a sheer sleeveless silver lame evening gown with matching high-heeled shoes, carrying a matching purse, and adorned with a string of pearls around her neck, a silver bracelet, and gleaming diamond earrings, and a matching purse. Her corn silk hair floated down over alabaster shoulders in a foaming wave. The best hairdresser in Hollywood couldn't have done better than she had done herself with a brush and a mirror. Looks like a movie star to me, said Lockhart with an approving nod. If that's a simple look, I'd love to see you all dolled up, said Randall. Get your damn jaw off the floor, Jimmy, Kiki told him in asperity. I wish you'd reconsider my advice about taking those 2 steps back, ma'am, Lockhart urged her sincerely. Nah, I always do my own stunt work, she told him with a smile. Okay, just remember what I told you. One good scream to be recorded for the ages, then hit the floor, roll under the curtain of the line of fire, and get behind any cover I can find, she repeated. I know you can scream, said Randall with a smile. I saw you in that slasher film, The Boogeyman Does Boston. I screamed better in The Bugs, when I was covered with cockroaches, she said. Live ones, not animatronic. The FX crew dumped 70,000 of them right over my head from plastic bins. I think I swallowed a couple during all the screaming and thrashing around in that scene. But this one tonight will be my masterpiece. You, said Kiki. She turned to the group. I have to get going, she told them all, quietly but in a strong voice. I very much hope that I will meet all of you again, she glanced quickly at Randall. But if that's not the way it plays out, then I want you to know that it is a privilege for me to have met you, and I am proud and honored that you have let me be a part of this memorable evening in history. She walked to the door and turned with her hand on the knob. She held the other hand up, not in a National Socialist salute, which her dramatic sense told her would have been overdoing it, but simply as a gesture of parting. She did not shout, she simply spoke a word that filled the room. Freedom! Freedom! Replied Lockhart. Right back at ya, babe, replied Randall. They watched the opening review and speeches on television. Randall was already wearing his air conditioning mechanic's outfit with the contractor's badge, his long red metal toolbox carefully packed with the tear gas grenades and his Uzi. His silenced Ruger was now in a shoulder holster under his coveralls, which were unzipped down to the waist to give him easy access. His radio hung on his tool belt. The chorus line and whatnot should be cleared out of backstage and out of the dressing rooms in the basement by the time we get there, he told them. Security doesn't like them wandering around after they've danced for their masters, so they get cleared out of the building pronto. One departure from the final briefing. When you leave this room, carry your web belts in your bags. Don't wear them, since with these corridors as crowded as they are, we might be seen and reported to hotel security. You'll put on your belts when you reach the jump-off in that corridor under the stage. Make sure that you do not leave anything of yours in these rooms. And make sure you spend the time between my departure and yours wiping this place clean as a whistle of Prince, every single object any of you may have touched. Kat, you've got the schedule. Are they on it? Down to the minute, said Kat. Best documentary's just coming on. What did we finally decide on for departure times? I leave at 6:30 sharp and you lot at 6:40, said Randall, looking at his watch. Which means I'm off in about 60 seconds. Kat, keep your radio on. I will let you know if there are any problems, and you let me know when you leave. Comrades, I second everything that non-existent person said when she left. Let's give these bastards a night to remember. Randall picked up the toolbox, turned and walked out the door. In the hallway he could hear noise and music and maniacal laughter from the other suites along the corridor. A man in a white tuxedo was standing some ways down the corridor talking to the wall in a monotone, stoned on something. Randall entered the elevator and rode it down to the garage level, card swiped into the laundry room, and found the door into the underground passage to the Kodak Theater without meeting anyone. He took out the swipe card copied from the one Erica had obtained for him. If this doesn't work, we're screwed, he thought to himself. The door clicked and slid open silently. The long, dimly lit, carpeted passageway was empty. Randall got on the radio and clicked it 3 times. Back in suite 1400, and one Cat Lockhart said, "That's it, he's in the trap door. His card works, so ours should work as well." The door on the other end had no keyed access on the inside. Randall simply pushed it open, slowly peering out into the corridor by the old green room. It was empty. He could hear one of the award winners up on the stage droning on with his speech, and the noise of the audience that filled the theater. He entered the corridor and went to the open archway, carefully looking around. The backstage area was empty. He could see no activity up on the catwalks. Randall looked up and waited for the traverse camera to begin its leftward swing, and then he moved swiftly along the back of the stage, stopping briefly to make sure. The small door that led to the orchestra pit was indeed open, and then headed for the stairs, going upward into the gallery of makeup rooms and dressing rooms above. Randall and Sterling Farrell had carefully plotted out a circuitous route that would get him to the interstitial area, with only 2 spots where a short time visible on the security cameras was unavoidable. The first was at the end of the dressing room gallery, where he had to enter one of the main corridors for about 50 feet, which he did, walking casually as if he had every right to be there, swinging his toolbox. Someone in the control room now knew he was there, if anyone was paying attention. As soon as he got out of camera range, he ducked into a men's room that had a second exit door leading onto a short staircase down to lobby level, which Farrell had assured him had been somehow neglected when Centurion had been placing the cameras. If Centurion was sending somebody to look for him, they wouldn't know which way he had gone, and they would waste time searching the whole corridor and all the rooms on it. The second exposed place was the lobby-level corridor leading toward the interstitial area. Randall had to get down that and walk almost into the wall at the T-junction so as to get under the camera, so they couldn't see which way he was turning. If they figured him for an Oscars gatecrasher, they would assume he had turned right to try and get into the theater itself. Instead, he turned left. They would not know he had entered the interstitial area until he swiped his key card and it registered in the control room. He then had to wait there until he got word that the team was in place before popping his gas grenades and shoot anybody who came through the door. He met no one along the way. He swiped the card and entered the room, drew his pistol and stuck it into his tool belt, opened his toolbox and took out an elastic bungee cord that he looped and hooked around the doorknob with the other end around an electric cable conduit. It would slow up anyone trying to open the door long enough to warn him so he could get his gun out. Then he took out his radio and clicked it 3 times. The roar of the air conditioning was so loud that he could speak and hear. "I'm in place," he told the rest of them. "In the Hollywood Royale Suite 1401, Cat Eyes Lockhart said, 'We're on our way,' and slipped the radio into his back pocket. "Right, let's go." The 6 volunteers left the suite, all wearing identical black and white tuxedos and wearing festive costume party masks, each lugging a heavy canvas gym bag. They met a drunken couple shrieking with maniacal laughter as they staggered down the corridor, the shoulder strap of her evening gown half off. "What's in the bags, guys?" cackled the woman, her eyes dilated. "We're that new band, the Grim Reapers," said Cat from beneath his gorilla mask, as they waited for the elevator. "These are our instruments. We're going to do a hot number on the Oscars tonight." "Knock 'em dead," offered the drunken woman cheerfully. "We will," said Cat as the elevator doors opened. They made it into the laundry room and to the door of the secret passageway without further incident, and everyone held their breath while Cat swiped his card through the slot. The card worked. The team moved swiftly down the corridor, into the theater, and then after a wait for the camera, they went into the entrance of the small tunnel leading to the orchestra pit. Cat tore off the monkey mask and picked up his radio and clicked it. "We're in place," he said. "Set in 60. "I'm set," came Randall's voice. He had the air vent grill plate unscrewed and out on the floor, and his 3 CS grenade canisters were laid out on the duct. He had also taken the precaution of laying out a Prince of Wands tarot card, prominently displayed on another nearby duct, in case he hadn't time to do so if things got hectic. "Any hiccups?" he asked. "Nary a one," said Cat. All around him, the team members were taking off their fun masks, strapping on their web belts, and removing weapons and ammunition pouches from the canvas bags. Kiki and Lee Washburn carried HKs. Mike Gauss was quickly assembling his famous Thompson submachine gun, slapping in a 100-round drum, and over his shoulder he had slid a canvas pouch containing 2 extra 100-rounders and 2 50-round drums. Jimmy Wingo took out an AK-47, extended its folding stock, then a drum magazine that he inserted into the weapon. In his cylindrical pouch he carried 5 more such magazines. All the ammunition he and Gauss carried for their weapons was a heavy burden, but they figured to lighten their load significantly by the time they left. Kiki and Lee held flashlights while Cat Eyes and Ron Kolchak carefully assembled and loaded their broken-down rifles. Then they stashed their masks in the bags, which also contained the street clothes in which they had entered the Royale, and the bags themselves into Wingo's large U.S. Army duffel bag. Finally, they pulled the dark blue ski masks down over their faces. They were ready in 45 seconds. Cat got on the radio. "We're set," he told Randall in a tense voice. "Wait on my signal," ordered Randall's voice. "No one's tried to come in here and check out what's going on," he thought. "Bloody Nora! Are those people all asleep down there?" As Randall was to learn later, the reason no one had come to see who he was and what he was doing in the building was that the control room staff members were all watching the action at the front door on their monitors. Security Sergeant Sterling Farrell had picked a fight with a drunken paparazzi, an obnoxious little third-worlder of some nondescript brown appearance, who had been trying a routine schmooze past the metal detectors with a camcorder. Instead of simply telling him to get lost, Farrell suddenly went berserk, pepper-sprayed the man, knocked him down and began beating on him with a nightstick. Centurion Vice President for Operations. Marvin Hagerman, head of security for the event, had come running from the control room and was still at the front door trying to sort out the brawl, which had left the pap with a broken nose streaming blood and screaming that he was going to sue everyone in sight. Randall checked his portable cell TV and stuck the earphone in his head as he saw Erica Collingwood walk onto the stage with calm poise, her silver lame gown and her golden hair floating around her. He heard her mellifluous and sensual voice say, "This year's nominees for Best Screenplay are..." He put on his gas mask, popped the grenades one after the other, and dumped them into the air conditioning vent. He waited almost 30 seconds before he heard yelling and screaming through the ducts from the floor below him that let him know the gas was in the control room. He picked up his radio and yelled, "Go, go, go!" They went. The 6 volunteers broke out of the doorway beneath the stage at a run, and each group of 3 charged for their respective stairwells. Cat, Kiki, and Wingo bounded up the stairs to the 3rd floor, weapons at the ready, And when they got into the corridor, Kat handed Kiki his M21 while he drew his silenced Walther P38. They ran down the corridor until they came to the short little alcove that led to the projection booth. Kat leaned around and saw a large, fat Negro in a Centurion security guard uniform with a 9mm automatic and a black holster on his hip, sitting on a chair watching the Oscar ceremony on a wireless cell phone. He looked up just as Cat Eye shot him twice in the heart. The guard didn't even fall out of the chair, he just grunted and slumped over. Cat walked up and put another slug through the top of his head. Then he swiped the card he had been given through the slot. He kicked the door open, and a surprised young red-headed, green-eyed white girl in sweats looked up in terror from beside the projector. Cat was on her, shoving her against the wall, his hand over her mouth, gun muzzle below her chin. "Do as I say, if you want to live," he whispered to her gently. "When I take my hand off your mouth, you will not speak. You will be quiet and do what you're told. If you make any sound of any kind, then you must die. Do you understand?" "Nod." The terrified girl nodded. Kiki grabbed her away from Cat and forced the girl onto the floor on her stomach. She pulled the girl's hands behind her back and bound her wrists together with a plastic cuff tie, standard Iraq issue by the 100,000s, and then bound her legs at the ankles, while Cat drew a small spool of duct tape off his web belt and taped her mouth. "Can you breathe, miss?" he said with equal gentleness. "Nod." She nodded. "Do not move or do anything at all foolish," he whispered to her. "Many people must die tonight, but as God is my witness, you will live, if you simply lie still and be very quiet." He rose to his feet and ignored her from then on. Jimmy Wingo handed him his rifle through the door and went down to the end of the short passage to cover down on the main corridor. Down on the stage, Erica Collingwood called out, "The envelope, please." Cat took up a position on the right side of the projector, and Kiki to the left. Cat took out an extra 20-round magazine for his M21, containing normal copper-jacketed rounds, and checked to make sure that the magazine in his weapon indeed contained the special exploding lead bullets. Kiki took out both her grenades and set them on the base plate of the projector, then slipped the safety off her HK and covered down on the target area, the forward VIP section in front of the orchestra pit with its tables of wine, champagne, and dainty food, glittering with men in gleaming tuxedos and women in a fantastic array of color and bejeweled elegance. Cat did the same, searching the kill zone over the barrel, marking targets. He took out the radio. "Red team set," he said. There was a delay of 10 seconds or so, which seemed very long, and then he heard Kolchak's voice say, "Gold team set." "Red team leader, fire at will," came Randall's voice, somewhat muffled due to his gas mask. "I will begin my own Iende when I hear you open fire. Good luck and good hunting, comrades. Freedom!" On stage, the pudgy Martin Rudin and the tall, slim mulatto Nat Turner Thomas, elegant in their tuxedos, approached the podium, hand in hand. They each embraced a smiling Erica and gave her a kiss on the cheek as she handed them the gold Oscar statuette. Marty Rudin began to speak. "It's no secret that The Color of Love is largely autobiographical. The story of how my beloved partner Nat and myself were able to overcome a racist society's hurdles, not just one, but the triple prejudices of racism, anti-Semitism, and homophobia." "Come on, honey, step back," Cat muttered to Erica under his breath. "Step back, please." Rudin droned on, but still Cat held his hand, not happy with the shot that presented itself, afraid of hitting Erica with one of the deadly rounds. Kiki leaned under the projector and whispered in his ear, very softly so the bound girl on the floor could not hear. "Cat, she's one of us. She's a volunteer and she's doing her duty. Now you have to do yours." "Nat, I couldn't have done it without you," blubbered and overcome Rudin down on the stage. "I couldn't have done any of it without you." The two men leaned over and gave each other a long, tongue-slurping French kiss. There was a sigh of awe and a scattering of applause from the audience. The two kissing men's heads exploded like watermelons, a single bullet virtually decapitating both of them. Erica Collingwood's mouth opened in a single long scream of pure terror, a scream heard around the world and immortalized for all time. She seemed to faint and drop to the floor. Then all hell broke loose. The Kodak Theater was originally designed as an operatic and concert house, and the acoustics were widely and justly acclaimed to be the best in the world, second only to the Sydney Opera House. the ribbed and shaped steel bands running from floor to high domed ceiling along the oval walls could magnify and reverberate the sound of a coin being dropped on stage. The noise that filled the theater now passed any description that might convey the reality of it to anyone who was not there. The subsequent millions of replays of the videos from all angles were filled with the madness and the terror and the death and the blood, but could never adequately convey the sound of the gunfire that roared down from the sky, rolling in waves from the ceiling and the walls. One survivor described it as being trapped inside an endless clap of thunder. The first grenades flew down from the projection booths, bounced and rolled along the floor, then detonated and hurtled fragments of wood and metal from chairs and tables, and human body parts. Several people were blown into the air, whirling like rag dolls in a tornado. Men and women screamed and scrambled and ran and hid, trampled and fought one another to get to the exits while a rain of death poured among them, rifle and submachine gun fire, cutting them down and sending them flopping and gushing blood down to the floor. After maybe 10 seconds, Kiki and Kat heard pops from the theater floor and heard the slap of pistol bullets slamming into the wall around the projection booth. The security guards, the bodyguards, and the cops were firing back at them. One bullet shattered the lens of the projector, showering them with powdered glass. A second clanged into the metal body of the projector and rang deafeningly. "The bells, the bells!" moaned Lockhart in a Hunchback of Notre Dame imitation, grinning maniacally at Kiki, who screamed with adrenaline-fueled laughter, blazing away with her submachine gun. Still firing, Kat yelled grenade, and Kiki threw her second one, then returned to spraying bullets at anything that moved, slapping empty magazines out onto the floor and full ones into the weapon. The grenade exploded with a whump that made the building shake, and maybe 5 seconds later the fourth grenade from the other projection booth detonated as well. In one way it was an endless time, and in another way it was but the flash of a moment until Kat ripped the empty magazine out of his M21, slapped in the next one, pulled a Jack of Diamonds card out of his pocket and laid it on the bullet-scarred ledge and yelled, "That's 20 rounds and we're out of here." Kolchak and Washburn were still firing into the shrieking, undulating mass of bodies down in the theater. Out in the corridor, heavy-set Jewish men, some in yarmulkes, all in tuxedos, had come charging out the doors of the private boxes, dragging women in expensive gowns, mostly young and blonde, as they tried to escape. Jimmy Wingo was waiting for them, crouching behind the corner of the entranceway, and with short, well-aimed bursts he cut them all down. Not one made it to the stairs. Kat and Kiki came out of the projection room. "Let me go first," said Wingo, and they pelted down the corridor after him. Just as they reached the stairwell, the door opened and a Centurion guard popped out, pistol in his hand. Wingo chopped him down with the AK. A bullet screamed by them and slapped into the wall. Kiki turned and blazed away with the HK at a couple of guards who were stumbling along the corridor behind them, hitting one of them and dropping him. The other turned and fled. They crashed down the stairs and Wingo machine-gunned another Centurion guard who was on his way up. The backstage area was no longer empty. It was filled with milling and jabbering members of the orchestra, some of them wounded, who had fled through the passageway under the stage. A woman screamed as the volunteers came out of the stairwell in their ski masks. Wingo spotted a Mexican security guard and splattered him against the wall with a burst of the Kalashnikov, quickly removing the magazine when it ran dry and slapping in another. The people all screamed and fled or ducked under cover. They met Ron Kolchak and his team at the door of the passageway, and Lee Washburn tore the door open and grabbed the duffel bag with all their bits and pieces in it. Then they ran for the archway and the trap door. Mike Gauss walked backwards, spraying the oncoming guards and police with bursts from his Thompson. With perfect timing, Randall was waiting for them at the door, holding it open. That's all, folks," said Cat Eyes as they moved into the passageway. They ran down the passage and came out into the underground garage beneath the Royale. It was empty except for 2 police cruisers parked near the Highland Avenue exit. "Wait, we need to make damn sure they're ours," said Randall. 2 uniformed LAPD officers were standing by the squad cars, but they could not be recognized at that distance. He called out to them, "Apple?" "Cobbler!" shouted back volunteer Joe Pilevsky. "Here, take these." Randall handed them his toolbox and his Uzi and ammo pouch and tool belt, retaining only his pistol. I'll meet you back at the Batcave. Good job, comrades, but we're not home free yet. Now go." He watched them all run to the squad cars and pile inside, then watched the cars depart, their blue and red lights silently flashing. Then Randall walked up the stairs and entered the hotel lobby, where there was chaos, people running around and shouting and weeping, others glued to the television sets in the bar and in the lobby, staring at the carnage on the screen. Randall walked unnoticed in his gray coveralls through the lobby, down another hall and right into the control room of the Hollywood Royale Centurion security force. There was a single Mexican security guard in the room. He looked up and said, "Hey man, you ain't allowed in here." Randall shot him in the head. He went over to the console, felt around under the board until he found a switch, and released the hard drive containing the security digital recordings for the hotel for the past several years, which he dropped into a plastic carrier bag he unfolded from his pocket that said, "Hollywood and Highland, where the stars shop." Randall returned the pistol to his shoulder holster. Then he walked unnoticed out the front door. 3 blocks down Hollywood Boulevard, a late-model BMW pulled over to the curb and beeped. Randall got into the car. Barry Brewer was driving. "Everybody else get away okay?" asked Brewer. "They made it to the cop cars," said Randall. "You got any word on Farrell and Erica?" "Farrell just called me. He slipped out in the confusion and he's heading for the pickup point. Erica made it too. I heard her being interviewed on the car radio by some of the media people who also survived. She's laying on just the right combination of hysterics and confusion, as well she might. That first bullet of Kat's must have shaved an eyelash off her. God damn, that girl has got balls." "She wasn't hit then," said Randall with a sigh of relief. "She ducked and covered okay. Thank God. I got the hotel security videos." He shook the bag. "You get any take from the early media yammer on how we did? I can tell you this much. You cut out Hollywood's heart and stomped that sucker flat," said Brewer. The day after the Oscar night massacre, the following casualty list appeared on the front page of a black-bordered edition of the Los Angeles Times. In addition to the dead listed here, over 200 people were wounded by bullets and flying shrapnel, and also from being trampled in the stampede to escape. The LA Times list was subsequently posted to the internet on a satiric website called InsideTinselTown.com, with certain pointed and irreverent commentary added. The day after it was posted, the site was shut down and the webmaster arrested under the Patriot Act. He has never been seen since. But this did not occur before the site was mirrored all across the World Wide Web. Adelstein Jeremy, Jewish. Scriptwriter for 6 major television sitcoms on 2 networks. Faked mental illness to evade draft. Adler Allen, Jewish. Senior Vice President in charge of marketing. Paradigm Studios. Got his start making porno and snuff films in Mexico. Baylor, Amber, white. Nominated for Best Supporting Actress for portrayal of tough female FBI agent hunting evil white racists in the Pacific Northwest. Married to Israeli independent producer and director Avraham Stern. Bernstein, Arthur, Jewish. Prominent director, recipient of 2 Lifetime Achievement Academy Awards and 2 Best Directors. Slated to direct Great White North for World Artists. Indicted for insurance fraud and tax evasion. Charges dropped. Borenstein Albert, Jewish. Senior Vice President in charge of production World Artists. Several complaints of physical and sexual abuse by multiple wives dropped through unknown influence. Cochran, Mark, white, married, no children. Nominee for Best Special Effects for The Return of the Zoid. Cohen, Harry, Jewish, actor. Star of television sitcom The Rabbi and Me, wherein Cohen plays feckless high school kid who solves mysteries with the help of a wise old rabbi. Crimes that always originate with evil white racists or Muslims. Charges of obtaining a false medical exemption from the draft dropped. Influence of Sid Glick. Cohen, Todd, Jewish. Casting director, Paradigm Studios. Subject of repeated sexual harassment suits from aspiring actresses and studio employees. Colbert, Kenesha, mulatto. Actress, nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her role as a strong woman African-American freedom fighter in the epic Southern anti-slavery movie Eagleton Plantation, for which she had already received the Best Actress award from the Black Film Actors Guild. Miss Colbert was not shot, but trampled to death by her fellow glitterati trying to escape. Concasseur Tijon Black, Centurion security officer, former untrained Haitian police officer, former Port-au-Prince gangster, and enforcer for outlawed Lavalas Party. Daniels, Ray, white, actor, nominated for Best Actor for Let's Go Home, wherein Vietnam vet returns to reunite with his Saigon bargirl lover and his mixed-race child and fights against the communists and then wicked racist American immigration law to bring them into the United States. Dick Steen, Morris Jewish, Golden Globe award-winning actor and stand-up comedian, chairman of the Hollywood Israel Friendship Society. 2 arrests for pedophilia suppressed by influence of unknown persons. Feigenbaum, Yosele, Jewish, President, MGM Studios. Member of Anti-Defamation League's National Board of Directors, reputed to have private room in his Beverly Hills mansion stocked with drugs, sex toys, pornography, and satanic ritual objects. Franken, Andrea, Jewish, co-scriptwriter for Great White North. Police broke into her apartment when neighbors heard screams and found Franken bound in leather restraints and apparently being raped and beaten by James Watterson, 26, Hells Angels gang member with prominent swastika and white racist tattoos. Charges dropped when Franken admitted the acts were consensual and Watterson was paid for them. Galvez, Ramon, Hispanic. Centurion security officer, Gans Allen, Jewish, head of script. Gelblum, Emmanuel, Jewish, chairman of the board of directors of World Artist Studios, approved recent project Great White North, son heroin addict, daughter in mental institution and room next to her mother. Gelblum was a shoshe, a kosher slaughter man, not out of religious obligation, but because he simply enjoyed killing animals. Glick, Shlomo, Jewish, head of Mammoth Productions, scheduled producer of Homeland, reputed to be drug addict and insane, stabbed a secretary with a pair of scissors in his office, released after 30 days court-ordered psychiatric observation. Scandal ensued when it was revealed that Glick only spent 1 day in observation and was actually at work and at home when alleged observation was supposed to be taking place. Story killed on order of his brother, Sid Glick. Glick, Sydney, Jewish, president, Paradigm Studios, known as Mr. Hollywood. Glick was renowned as the most powerful Jew in the motion picture industry since Louis B. Mayer's time. Driving force behind Homeland Project, Goldblum, Ari, Jewish, Israeli-born head of largest talent agency in Hollywood, famed as first Hollywood manager, actually to write a casting couch clause for actresses into his contracts, known as the Personal Services Clause. Goldblum, Jerry, Jewish, actor-director, arrests for rape, bestiality, and stock fraud, all suppressed through the influence of Sid Glick. Gorham, Rafi, Jewish, bodyguard to Sid Glick, ex-Israeli Mossad. Gorham was wanted by the United Nations War Crimes Committee for the murder of over 100 elderly Palestinians in a nursing home burned to the ground during an Israeli army incursion into Ramallah. Greenwood, Michelle, white, aspiring actress actually employed by escort service, accompanying Saul Steinberg of 21st Century Fox to ceremonies that night. Gunderson Robert, white, bodyguard to Sid Glick, former FBI agent, dismissed from bureau for selling information to Colombian drug lords. Gutierrez Pablo, Hispanic, Hotel Royale control room guard. Halter Yossi, Jewish, just appointed youngest studio vice president in history at Mammoth Productions, reputedly blackmailed entire board of directors with 6 months' worth of secret surveillance tapes of their assorted sexual and financial peccadillos. "This young man will go far," said Mammoth, on announcing his appointment in the media. Hirschfield Albert, Jewish, editor of Variety Online, suspected of poisoning his elderly mother with strychnine some years ago in order to get a large insurance settlement. Horowitz, Joshua, Jewish, scriptwriter for Great White North, had bribery arrangement with California Department of Corrections, wherein he was occasionally admitted to correctional institutions and left alone, with white supremacist inmates who were handcuffed and restrained and allowed to beat them with a baton. It is not known whether he was ever allowed to flagellate his co-writer Andrea Franken. Hudson, Mary Ann, White. Aspiring actress actually employed by escort agency. Accompanied Irving Kirschbaum to the ceremonies that night. Jones, Lamont, Black. Bodyguard to Josele Feigenbaum. Karate black belt, ex-Marine Corps. Cocaine addict. Katz David, Jewish, director and independent producer of Great White North, 2 counts of rape dismissed through influence of persons unknown. Kirschbaum, Irving, Jewish, producer of over 70 major motion pictures, including 4 Academy Awards for Best Picture and 1 personally for Lifetime Achievement. Widely believed in the industry to be insane. Claimed to be accompanied always by Angel Gabriel, and conducted long conversations with said divine being at various inappropriate times such as board meetings, etc. Kirshner, Marion, Jewish, specialized in wise and salty Jewish mother roles, including her latest television series where she portrayed a wise, cracking Yiddish mama who was also a federal judge, sentencing evil white racists and Muslims to prison every week. Found dead at her very important person table, face down in a bowl of her own trademark chicken soup. Landauer, Hyman, Jewish, Senior Vice President in charge of production, World Artist Studios, in charge of proposed film Great White North. Arrested in legal Nevada brothel after being found under influence of drugs in bed with strangled prostitute. No charges filed. Mandel Peter, Jewish, President of Global Studios. A raging sex maniac who once engaged in coitus with 24 aspiring starlets in one 24-hour period to win a bet, 1 per hour, after which he fired them all and had them hounded out of town by the LAPD because nobody nails my leftovers. Martinez Rafael, Hispanic, Centurion Security Officer. Nussbaum Philip, Jewish, producer and director, mostly for Paradigm, killed 3 members of the Riordan family of San Diego, including 2 children, while driving the wrong way up an exit ramp on Interstate 5 at 80 miles an hour in his Maserati, with a blood alcohol level of... Charges reduced to straight DUI, license suspended for 90 days. Padilla Juan, Hispanic. Centurion Security Officer. Pector, Rabbi Leo, Jewish, Southern California Regional Director, Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith. Served as interrogator in U.S. Army. Investigated by JAG for torture of Arab prisoners going even beyond the Dershowitz protocols, quietly discharged and immediately employed by ADL. Ratner, Lou, Jewish, attorney to the stars, main legal troubleshooter for Hollywood establishment under Generalissimo Sid Glick. Once got black athlete and aspiring actor Tyrone Fowler acquitted for rape and murder of Russian hotel maid, a homicide that was camcorded in its entirety by paparazzi lurking on balcony and introduced into evidence. Fowler was nominated for this year's awards as Best Supporting Actor for Blood on the Basket, but was found dead in his Mercedes of a drug overdose before awards night. Robertson Frederick, White, Centurion Security Officer, married, 2 children. Rodriguez Manuel, Hispanic. Centurion Security Officer. Rosenberg Abba, Jewish. Senior and House Legal Counsel to Paradigm Studios. Found with almost a full gigabyte of child pornography on his company computer and a whole secret viewing room full of such material in his Carmel, California home. No charges filed. Rubenstein, Jennifer, Jewish. Gossip columnist and reviewer for Variety. Alleged to have driven actresses Jenny Kraft and Mila Bellarov to suicide after ruining their careers. Rudin, Marty, Jewish, homosexual, joint winner of Best Screenplay Award for The Color of Love. Salazar, Ramon, Hispanic, Centurion Security Officer. Shmulevitz Rabbi Samuel, Jewish, director of the Simon Wiesenthal Center in Los Angeles, personal friend of Hillary Clinton. Stanford, Jenna, White, actress. Star of several interracial films including a mafia version of Othello, the consensual incest movie Brother Beloved wherein a teenage Stanford seduces her 10-year-old brother, as well as engaging in one of the grottiest lesbian scenes ever filmed during the movie version of Sappho. Steinberg, Saul, Jewish, Executive Vice President, 21st Century Fox, known associate of organized crime figures suspected of money laundering, reputed to be unofficial Mossad station chief for Hollywood. Steinfeld Bert, Jewish, actor. Specialized in macho martial arts roles, beating up on Arabs, Nazis, Frenchmen, and other villainous characters. Rifle bullet entered anus while Siegel was crawling on floor and exited his brain. Stern, Avraham, Jewish. Israeli independent director and producer. Imported over 10,000 black Africans from Guinea-Bissau and Senegal into Florida to use as extras for an African war movie he was making. Movie lost financing, and so Stern simply opened the compound one morning and turned the Africans loose, resulting in several dozen murders and over 200 rapes of local residents, as well as over 1,000 separate lawsuits, all of which were dismissed due to unknown influence. Thomas Nathan Turner, black, homosexual. Joint winner of Best Screenplay Award for The Color of Love. Arrested for child molestation 3 years ago, charges dropped through influence of persons unknown. Tostig's daughter, Ingrid, white. Icelandic supermodel, escorting Hyman Landauer to the Oscar ceremonies. Washington, Bobo, black. Centurion security officer. Weinberg Bruce, president, Star Crown Motion Pictures Inc., investigated by the SEC for securities fraud and by the DEA for allegedly arranging in-house narcotic supplies to his actors and executives and collecting cut of the profits. No charges filed. Weinstein, Abe, Jewish, senior vice president for finance for Universe Studios. Investigated for creatively financing many films with laundered drug money and for statutory rape of a minor. No charges filed. Woltz, Louis, Jewish, CEO of Excelsior Studios, multimillionaire. In his younger days as an agent, he was charged with embezzling clients' money, mail fraud, drug trafficking, and suspicion of murder when actress Jill Considine died under mysterious circumstances in her home just after filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Woltz to recover money he stole from her over a 5-year